working groups. And I'm going to let James start first with the component maintenance working group.
Hello, everyone. I'm James Griffin. I'm a digital infrastructure developer with the Princeton University Library, and I'm going to be providing just a brief set of updates for the component maintenance working group. Currently, while I'm serving as the chair, the maintenance working group itself has seen a period of inactivity over the past year, and there has been limited resources when it comes to the availability of members to actively meet and participate. And I apologize for a lot of this, and I really look forward to trying to reconvene a lot of these efforts in order to carry this forward. And I sincerely thank everyone who has contributed and been involved and remained patient. I definitely don't look to criticize anyone. I'm very grateful for everyone in terms of their contributions. There is currently a wiki for this. This was for phase 4 of the working group. I'm listing the members as none, given that, as I'll discuss in a moment, there's actually an active call for participation for reconvening. Then next slide, please. Thank you. So currently for our activity, as stated, I'm really looking to try and propose for reforming this as an interest group. There is an active call for participation on the Samvera Tech mailing list, and I've also linked on the slides to the current proposal for the interest group. Please note that I am proposing that this be reformed as an interest group in order to ensure that we need not require three partner institutions or organizations to serve as members in order to reconvene and begin reinitiating our efforts. Currently, as specified within the message on the mailing list, we're looking to try and schedule at least one meeting before January, and we're actively looking to request any participants. Anyone can join, and we truly would like to make this as welcoming an experience as possible for anyone who might be new to the Samvera community. In addition to the Slack channel that was referenced in the previous slide, please freely contact me via email using jrg5@princeton.edu, or always please try and contact me on Slack. I will be posting to the channel momentarily. And these are all the updates currently for the component maintenance working group and soon to be interest group. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, James. So next up, we have Chris with the marketing working group.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Heather. So the marketing working group meets regularly on a Wednesday, the second Wednesday of each month. Every 2 weeks on Wednesdays, sorry, at 11:30 Eastern time. Via Zoom, and we have a Slack channel as well, which people can follow and catch up with the latest developments in the working group itself. We have a wiki page that can be details out the meetings that we're holding and contains the notes of those meetings and updates on also on some of the resources that are available to assist with any marketing that you might like to do. And I've listed there the members, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank them for all their very active contributions over the last year or so since the last Connect, which has been a busy year for us. I want to highlight that the purpose of the marketing working group, just for those not so familiar with it, which is our role is to essentially find ways of raising the profile of Samvera through various different channels. The Samvera as a brand, Samvera as a community, external to that community. We're very interested in the activity or any marketing activity that individual institutions carry out around Samvera, learning from those. We had a very valuable and insightful contribution from Notre Dame earlier this year on some of the activity that they'd carried out. But our primary remit is about communicating Samvera outside institutions, or at least not necessarily targeting any particular internal audience per se. that you might like, but that you might do as individual institutions. A summary of our current activity. Over the summer, we did some very focused discussions around a number of different activities. We took the opportunity of the summer break to review the Samvera website and also the FAQ. The website received some very useful input from a number of members of the community, and I'd like to thank all of the participants who took part in that. It was very valuable getting their input and their insight as to what was working with the website, what might have been need some updating, some refreshing, what had been superseded in terms of developments within the community itself. We're planning to do this on an annual basis so that we make sure that the website maintains its currency and that anyone coming to the website gets the full and clear picture of what they're engaging with when it comes to Samvera. We're also in the process of reviewing the FAQ that is on the website to make sure that those questions are the frequently asked questions that people do pose, and also that the answers presented there are as up to date as they need to be. One piece of work, we also had a discussion over the summer about the Samvera repository. So for those of you, again, maybe not so familiar, is that Samvera has its own repository, which is very kindly hosted for us by Notch8. And that repository acts as a sort of a holding place for all the materials from these Connect conferences and a number of other community activities and events. So a great rich source of presentations, documents, detailing progress and developments within the Samvera community for reference there. So hence, for use by anyone in the community and all of those with an interest in Samvera, we wanted to make sure that people within the community had the opportunity to contribute to that collection as much as possible. And so we've made the repository open so that other people can, everyone can deposit into that. It still has a mediated workflow, of course, to make sure that what's coming in is valid for the repository. But it is able and possible for everyone to contribute to that. And I know that that's something we'd like to encourage people to do from this conference. And we've also had a number of focused conversations and discussions around planning we'd like to take forward around institutional profiles in order to raise more awareness of the rich activity and development activity around Samvera repositories that we have within the community. We looked at the Getting Started wiki page that Heather's been working on to provide input to that, to make sure that it covers everything that is needed. For those of you who may not be so familiar, on the Samvera website, there is a Samvera tour where you can actually then go on an interactive tour of some of the repositories that within the community, highlighting what those repositories do, how they serve their different communities and themselves, and looking in particular at some of the key objects and materials that those repositories hold. We're looking at how we can continue to develop that to make sure that it reflects the community as a whole and the richness of the range of repositories that the community has provided and delivers. Please take a look. If you do have any interest in that or would like to contribute, then do let us know. But otherwise, it is there in order to help promote the range of ways in which Samvera can be applied to the management of digital collections. And then we've just started a discussion about the partner prospectus. Heather kindly shared earlier that we have, of course, a new partner in the Haiku Consortium, and I'd like to offer my own welcome to them, to the community as part of this conference, and that we have prospective members, partners, potentially looking at joining us. The prospectus is a key document for that because it helps to highlight what people are taking on board, what commitment they're taking on board, what responsibilities we're asking for, but also what benefits they will get from playing an active role in the continued development of Samvera. One point I'd also like to highlight is that Samvera Connect last year, we ran a workshop focused at AULs and equivalent roles on the role of repository and strategic planning, seeking to find a way of communicating to those people making more strategic decisions around repositories on how they can, how repositories play a role in that, and using Samvera as a use case. We were very fortunate to be able to deliver that workshop in a rejigged format to make it more generic at Open Repositories 2021. And we'll have that as a tool set that we can use as and when it's useful to be able to communicate to such a community. Next slide. So looking ahead, our next steps is implementation of the topics that I described that have been under discussion, taking forward those in more depth over the coming year. And we've also recently had a conversation about which conferences for 2022 that we will look to attend virtually or in person, depending on what actually transpires in those conferences, and which events we can promote Samvera through. So, for example, we have over the years tended to sponsor and been present at open repositories, Digital Library Federation Conference, DLF Conference, and also Code for Lib. We're open to suggestions as to which events may be appropriate or useful to promote Samvera at. So if you have suggestions, then please do let us know. And as ever, of course, new members are welcome. And one of the great things about Marketing Working Group is that if you do have someone in your team who would like to be able to spread the word about Samvera and has that sort of particular leaning in terms of how they support repository development, then this is a great place in which they can contribute and play an active role. Thank you very much for that opportunity to provide an update, and move on to the next group.
Thank you so much, Chris. And I'll just echo, Chris, that the Marketing Working Group is a great group of folks, and we could definitely use new members anytime. Or if you see any areas of Samvera marketing, especially if you're new to the community and you found anything particularly difficult or confusing, we'd love to hear, because this group is always looking for the next thing that might need to be updated or refined or added. So thanks very much to those folks. And I'm actually giving the next update on behalf of the Repository Management Interest Group. So this was an interest group that actually retired this summer. The agenda was starting to dwindle, and the number of folks attending the monthly meeting was getting low. And so the organizers of that group decided to go ahead and sunset that group. But there is an active Slack channel. It's there. It's alive and well, and it's available for anyone to ask any questions. If you're not sure where to ask, or you feel concerned about putting that into our general channel, the repo management channel is a great place to go. So this is an area where I want to make sure that we're sort of providing enough in the community for folks who would have been served by this interest group. So I think one of the challenges that this interest group has always had is in the name, and making sure that folks who it is targeted to could realize that the group was really for them. And the idea was to have an interest group for folks who are repository managers or repository librarians, or really in any staff role where you are working to keep to be a liaison for your repository. Basically, if you're not a developer, because we have the tech call and we have lots of interest in working groups for developers. And if you're not an administrator, because we tend to see administrators in our partner call and elsewhere in the community. But if you are sort of in another role where you want to keep up with what's going on with Samvera and you want to be able to talk to your peers, the Slack channel is a great place to do that. But we have developed this survey, and I would encourage folks to spread the survey far and wide in your institution if you think anyone might have insight into what this group would need, if we need to reform it, or if there are other ideas or other ways that we can serve you in the community. It's a very short survey, it's just one page, and it lists a few potential training opportunities that I have heard may be of interest to this group, and I want to get a sense of if that's true and what we should prioritize. So the information that we gather in that survey will be definitely put to use in the coming months. And if you have any questions about this, if you're interested in restarting this interest group or some other interest group that's related, and you have questions or you want some help getting that started, please feel free to email me. I would be happy to help with that. And also in the meantime, don't forget about that Slack channel. There's a lot of great folks in there who are very happy to help. All right, so I'm going to turn it back over to the UX interest group folks.
All right. Yeah, again, this is Adam again. I'll just give a quick update. So a lot of what we have done in 2021 was kind of covered in our previous presentation. But just a little background info on the interest group. It is alive and well. We meet once a month, typically on the second Wednesday of each month at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And the Slack channel as well is listed. It's listed there. If you go to the next slide, please. So yeah, again, for the 2021 highlights of what the UX interest group kind of took on, it kicked off the year with, somewhat of a yearly focus, again, on like just kind of reframing what UX means, I guess, to the Samvera community and trying to take people's pulse on what people might find interesting or valuable to their specific like teams. So design principles is what we arrived at for 2021. We did, I'll try to quick summary of the presentation, but we started out just on conducting some best practice research, consulting other organizations or universities to see kind of how they handled this situation, like in a non, I guess, kind of like profit organization environment, and also just like UX best practices, and found some really good resources online, which helped shape what we eventually arrived at. We took this kind of as part of the process for how we went about this. So we went through revisions of the content that the UX interest group was kind of discussing, which is design principles, and kind of hashed through that internally in our monthly meetings. And then we set up meetings with Haiku groups, Hyrax, Avalon, and kind of attended their monthly calls or sessions, and had an opportunity to just give a little brief presentation of where we're at in the process. The current state of the design principles, kind of shared that with the groups, and got some really helpful feedback on what they thought was helpful, was not helpful, and where it could go from there. And then we refined, and just kept on refining. So, and we're, arrived at where we just presented on today. So it was a good year. And I think what we learned out of 2021 and kind of like rethinking about the UX interest group, because it's not really a working group, I think for the health of just engagement and whatnot, it seems like it's nice to have something tangible to deliver in some way, shape, or form. And I think the process of treating this past year, like having like a theme to it, kind of helped. 2020 was a little kind of all over the place, trying to just throw out random UX topics, which some were interesting, some not so much of a response. So maybe a pattern moving forward for the UX interest group could be like a yearly theme. And as we were kind of like coincidentally like discussing this in the past month at our past interest group meeting just last week, we had a newcomer throw out a great suggestion about talking about like accessibility and her experience, like kind of focusing on that over the next few months. And Carl and I thought, hey, what a great opportunity to maybe run with that as a theme for 2022. So again, in some way, shape, or form, I think that might be the focus for our monthly meetings and potential work to come out of that in 2022. So if anyone out there is interested in accessibility, which I'm sure most are or should be, now is a great time to come on board with the UX interest group and be part of the conversation and see where we can take this. One idea we had was maybe, or Carol and I had, was maybe, maybe we could take a look again at like popular Samvera applications and do some type of accessibility audit or whatnot, similar to what the UX interest group helped in about 2 or 3 years ago, I think, with the outside accessibility audit of Hyrax. And then the UX interest group kind of stepped in, took that report, and then helped triage a lot of those issues into GitHub, and, you know, to help kind of that guide Hyrax work related to accessibility. So, you know, in maybe some kind of capacity, the UX interest group could step in and not only discuss like, you know, current best practices or like which requirement level to match with like different like organizations and whatnot, but then also maybe take that and apply that to Samvera applications in some kind of consulting-ish kind of, or just working together scenario. So that's what our loose plans are for 2022. So if anyone's interested in anything UX or accessibility related, we'll see you next month.